Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jamal Saeed with you. I'm going to be with you for an hour on Thursday afternoon. First of all, I hope you guys are doing well, keeping safe, and always working on developing yourselves. And it's such a pleasure to have you with us on this webinar on leadership, a top executive perspective. Again, my name is Jamal Saeed, and I'll be taking you through a bit of a journey this afternoon about leadership, and I cover it from 5 key angles. If I want to give this perspective, 5 key perspectives for us, and I hope you find it useful. I honestly do. As a facilitator at Meirc Training and Consulting, I deal quite a bit with leadership and management. And when I put this material together, I thought, how can I help upcoming leaders or leaders themselves to become better leaders? Because in reality, that's what we need today. So let me jump in and start with the webinar. I hope you like the material, and we're going to be, by the way, asking you a few questions just to keep it interactive. And the other thing is, so we're going to be polling you, kind of polls. And again, I'm going to be sharing my email with you in case you like to have a copy of the presentation in PDF format. Note down my email. And let's make sure that we send it to you. So what I will do in the maybe in the chat box, I will share it with you right now. So jsaeed@meirc.com. So this is my email. If you like to keep it on the side, in case you're interested in the presentation, I can send you a PDF copy. Let's go ahead and start. While I'm on my way here to the office, an interesting number attracted my attention. The number of COVID-19 cases in the UAE is 254. And I'm sure that some of you are calling from other countries. Some of you could be calling from Saudi Arabia, calling in from Saudi, or from Lebanon, or from Egypt, sometimes from Ghana, sometimes from calling in from outside the region. So welcome wherever you are. The main thing is that the COVID-19 cannot stand in the way of our progress. So let's go ahead and start. So one of the key things I like to talk about is introduce the, hold on a second, yeah, let me introduce very quickly. So as you can see here, this is the, there's my email numbers. If you like to note them down, you will get them if you get a copy. So what we will do is, normally I like to give a quick introduction about Meirc Training and Consulting, just to know the company. But I'm not going to be spending too much time because time is precious, and I like to use the time that you are working with us or attending this webinar to get the maximum out of it. A bit of background, as you can see here in this particular slide, I talk about the company background, where it was established, our sister company Plus Training. We do offer lots of courses. As a matter of fact, it is more than 300 topics we cover. The company has been around for many years, more than 60 years, something that we are very, very proud of. And one thing about Meirc that we have managed to maintain the highest quality of content as well as delivery of material. Here's our vision, mission, values. So this is, again, something we like to share with our participants so that they know more about the company. And here are the the portfolios of programs. So as you can see, in each one of these portfolios, we have some outstanding courses and programs that you can attend. So feel free, please, to visit our website at www.meirc, M-E-I-R-C, as it is spelled in my extension of my email.com, and check all the programs. We always update it. We have launched lately our VL version of the training, virtual learning, because we know, sometimes the COVID-19 has presented some interesting conditions on us as humans, not being able to attend meetings, not being able to stay here or there, not being able to meet face to face. So of course, you have to be agile and resilient and find ways to keep going. And this is very, very critical. You have to fight, guys, no matter what, no matter what. I focus on the mindset. And please, if one thing I like you to take from this webinar is your mindset. Always make sure that you develop the mindset that keeps you going. Find ways to progress, think of the next step, establish new goals in your life. And then, of course, a little bit about myself. I'm not going to spend too much time here. Again, my name is Jamal Saeed, but here's a bit view of my experience. I'm a partner with Meirc since August 2012. I have a bachelor degree in engineering, master's in business administration. But as you can see, I worked for several multinationals, and I learned a lot in these multinationals. They pushed me to the limits. But funny enough, the company that really pushed me is the company I'm working for right now, Meirc Training and Consulting. So I had to change my mindset about many things when I came to work for Meirc. But I made sure that I stay healthy. So as you can see, I'm a avid cyclist. I like to cycle, and I'm thinner than what I see in the picture there. But otherwise, always take care of yourself. Now, what is it that we like to talk about in this webinar? Well, one thing is that I like to take you through a journey, as I mentioned. One thing, evaluate things from internally and then externally, and then what are the skills that you need as a leader, how you look at your organization, and what kind of agenda should you need. As you can see, these 5 pillars of the webinar are very critical. And look, at the end of the day, you as a leader, the first thing you need to do is lead yourself. Yes, any help is if valued, especially administratively or having the right team around you. But it's very critical that you also know how to lead yourself. And that journey starts with the inward perspective. You have to look at who you are. Okay, so this is very critical in this webinar. And in leadership, the role of leadership, true leaders are those who have an inward perspective. They're not introvert. Be careful. I'm not saying talking about introvert, even though there's nothing wrong with being an introvert. However, I'm talking about the inward perspective, your ability to reflect upon yourself. Isn't that wonderful? Look at that. Your ability to reflect upon yourself, find the shortcomings that you have and try to improve them and work on them. Find the strengths that you have and make sure that you work on it, keep them strong. So this is very important. I call it inward perspective of leadership. So are you ready for some questions? Here's my first question to you guys. Okay. And I ask you in this question the following. Leadership mindset is not important for top executives. True or false? So I'm going to ask you here the question, and I'm going to start with this question. Here you go. Let's see if you can get it or not. All you have to do is just select one of the choices and let me know. Okay? Leadership mindset is not important for top executive. True or false? Oh, I have some very good feedback. I'd like to welcome Ahmed Hussein, Alfonso. Welcome, Alfonso. Very good. Good to have you with us. We have Asim with us. We have Domenico. We have Ilyas. We have Luay. We have Muhammad, Dawood. We have Muhammad Al-Sayyad, Rami Basim, Selwa. Welcome, Selwa. We have Taysir. Taysir, my man, never misses. Thank you for being with us. And we have Wala. Welcome, welcome. That's fantastic, you guys. Good to have you with us. So let's see. We'll give everybody 5 more seconds because, you know, these polls, we have to manage them very well because I like to cover the material, of course. So, okay, so now we have some good responses. I'm going to end the voting right now, okay? And I'm going to share with you the results. So all of you said, leadership mindset is not important. You said false. So you believe it is important. Well done. So this is so true. Mindset, the mindset of leaders is so important. So I'm going to stop sharing right now. Okay. And I'm going to close this slide and I'm going to go back to my presentation. So well done. I like that. So you guys are ready. So here are some definitions of leadership. Let's examine them a bit. The first one comes from Kevin Cruz. Okay, he's an entrepreneur, and he worked with many companies and he established many companies. But one of the key things he says about leadership is life is about making an impact, not making an income. Well, that's very good. Many of us pursue higher positions to make more money, and there's nothing wrong with that as well. But making money is one of the objectives to make you a strong leader. You should have higher objectives in your life. And to do that, you have to change your mindset. Let's look at Peter Drucker, one of the gurus of management. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but he left a legacy behind him. He says, "I'm more interested in people that I'm in how business work." And for him, the only definition of a leader is someone who has followers. Now, you might disagree. You might say, Jamal, no, not necessarily. And I agree with you. I mean, this is a view of thought leaders. Remember, when you are a thought leader, you have your opinion about things. And it's important as a leader to have an opinion. Be careful. I'm going to repeat what I said. It's important as a leader to have an opinion. So if you are young, 22, 23, or if you are in your mid-age, 33, 34, or maybe 40, or you are more on the senior side, 55, but you're still young at heart, of course, it's important to have an opinion, okay? And this is something I really cherish, is to have an opinion. Why? Because as you grow through life and you become more mature, you know pretty much what you want. It doesn't mean that you stick with it or you become, what you call it, stubborn about it. You have to be also a very good listener. And that's mindset, you see. Mindset is your ability to give and take, formulate opinion, your ability to change your opinion if something proves that your opinion might be wrong, how to convince people, persuade them. You see, mindset is beautiful. It starts from within. It is you. Mindset is you. Of course, we can make our mindset by looking and observing others, but it is you. It is your story, your personality. So these are two definitions. I think the definition number one, we talked about Kevin Cruz. Leadership is the process of influencing people to voluntarily direct their efforts toward particular goals. That's amazing. To direct their efforts toward particular goals. So let's look now at some of the things I like to cover with you. So leadership, mindset, and self-awareness. So one of the key things when I talk about mindset, you have to be self-aware. You have to know who you are. So when you attend the courses with us, typically, I ask you to do an assessment. And that assessment is pivotal. Why? Because when you take this assessment, we discover your strong points and your weak points. And we say, okay, maybe you are funny enough, lots of people are more social aware than they are self-aware. Believe it or not. I mean, it's amazing how you are aware of how you deal with people, but sometimes you're not aware how you behave. So as you can see, there are many brilliant and respected business leaders in the market today. And you can pick a couple of them and say, you know what? I like that style. I like to follow some of the things of that individual. Sheikh Ahmed Al Maktoum, who is the president and I think the chairman of Emirates Airlines. I like his personality quite a bit. He's a very assured of himself, very confident, but I never saw him get upset. I mean, it's amazing. So it tells you that he manages his emotions very well. And managing your mindset in many ways is managing your emotional capabilities. And because they are linked with each other very, very much. The same thing with the gentleman on the right-hand side. Okay, he was the president of one of the leading shipping and logistics companies in the region, and he also left a very strong legacy. Right now, I think he retired, but they come in different shapes and forms, different styles, and each one of us has his own or her own style. So moving on, we at the end of the day, as you can see, what happened in our region here is that we have we are seeing some wonderful leaders come out. Now, some of the people in this picture are still with us. Some of them have retired, have moved on. But what I like also is the fact that many women leaders are also coming, are emerging, and that's a breath of fresh air to have women leaders leading on many fronts, socially, economically, governmentally, and they are doing a huge impact on how we operate in today's society and business environment. So we, okay, so, there are different styles. It doesn't mean that if you work on your mindset, you have to have one mindset that makes it successful. No, a mindset, you can have your own mindset. You may have some common points with others, but that you have your own style, your own panache about things. So moving on. Um, so according to a study by Gap International, we have several things that we like to discuss. Um, there are certain something here, something I like to point out. Leaders accomplish great things when they focus on how their own contributions connect to the bigger picture. So one of the key things that we have to be aware of is that how do you tie your opinion to the bigger picture? Okay, this is very critical. But at the same time, leaders accomplish exceptional outcomes actively when they actively focus on their team members. So first of all, you have to have the ability to think bigger picture, think of the wider scope of things. But at the same time, you have to understand that you not could do it on your own. You cannot do it on your own. And one of the key things I have noticed over and over, some of the mistakes that leaders do, is the fact that they try to do things on their own. And today, you cannot. It's not that you're not capable of. If you do it, you're going to be too slow. You have to empower the people around you. And that's mindset. Are you willing to work in a team? Are you willing to delegate? Are you willing to let go sometimes of certain responsibilities and decisions to others so that you can move things faster? Let me stop here for a second. When we look at how the United Arab Emirates have managed the COVID-19 situation, if Sheikh Mohammed, bless him, he wanted to do things on his own, I think he would have succeeded. He has the perseverance, but it would have taken him years and years. But what has he done is wonderful. He managed to empower the nation and on many fronts. Not a day passed by if the rulers did not thank the doctors at the forefront. You see, the thing about it that the COVID-19 has proven something to us, that the only way that you can overcome difficult situations is by working together. That working together and teamwork is also a mindset. I am confident that you have met a person in your life who doesn't like to share information, who doesn't like to tell you what's going on. Now, these people they themselves are realizing that they have to change their mindset if they want to be successful. So, self-awareness is a mindset thing. You have to understand, how do I behave? How do I react? How do I talk to people? How do I express my feelings? How do I manage people? It's a mindset. It's awareness of who you are. So that takes us to, what is the mindset of leaders when they are at their best? Now, this is some interesting numbers here. 26% of them have a sense of purpose. 23% of them focus on people. Now, the other ones make up the other 50%, or you can say 51%. But true leaders who have a very good mindset, they know that they have a strong sense of purpose. They work on their vision, on the future. They put the big goals and objectives. They put the guidelines for their organizations and their people, and then they focus on the people. They never forget giving, being positive. So they give a positive outlook, not a fictitious output, but they are positive by nature. They also focus on growth. Notice, growth is a mindset. They try to maximize possibilities. So when they see a possibility, they don't try to limit it and say, I cannot do it. We cannot do it. We don't have resources. They say, you know what? Let's find a way to do it. Let's see if we can collaborate with another company to see if we can do it. You see, there's a difference. I am confident right now, as we speak, you are thinking of somebody who is behaving this way, And then you are thinking of somebody else who behaves in the other way. And then experience of life, somebody who is sharing his or her experience with you. And then me with me. This is very interesting. Do you know why? Let me tell you what me with me means. A leader, in order for you to think of your mindset and self-awareness, you need some time for yourself. You need some time to reflect upon yourself. And many of us don't find time. And I fault anybody who wants to be a leader and to be a successful leader that don't give time for themselves to think, how did my day go today? Why did I argue with Selwa or Bassem today? Why didn't I listen to a situation that Tamer gave me? You see, these are interesting things. So when you review your day and how it was going along, you have the chance to improve yourself. And then, of course, getting it done. You have to keep your eye or your hand on the pulse, and you have to keep your eye on the KPIs. You have to make sure that things are done. Okay? So, very good. Now, we move on to something very important. One of the key things is you have to ask yourself some questions. So you see, I'm challenging you today. And I like you to take these questions to heart. Don't get upset with me, because if you really like to become not only a leader in a business, but a leader for yourself, a better leader on a personal level, are you willing to answer these questions? Am I willing to take the time to release control to my subordinates or employees? Are you willing to do that? I'm not asking you to abdicate all your responsibilities. That's not what I'm asking for. But I tell you one thing, if you really would like to do more, you have to let go of certain things. Second question, do I believe there will be positive results for this release? This means that if I hand over some responsibilities, will things get better? Will things move faster? Will I achieve more growth? Do I believe leadership is for everyone? Now, that's something I'm confident that many of you say, no, 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 no. Leadership is not for everyone. Well, I'm going to disagree to a big extent, because I believe leadership can be taught as well. Yes, many of you think that leadership is something you're born with, and fine. It might be the 10% factor that makes you an extraordinary leader, but leadership can be taught. Okay, so if you don't believe that others can be leaders, so how can you develop them? You see the mindset, you see the trick here. Am I open to possibility that leadership is a choice available for everyone? You cannot force somebody to be a leader if they don't want to. That's another thing. You have to respect others. How do my choices influence leadership opportunities for my employees in my organization or workplace? Did you see that? You see, it's part of growing career paths, people achieving what they didn't believe they could achieve. That's because you were willing to open the door for them. How can I intentionally unleash potential? Oh, that's beautiful. The potential. If you look at yourself, you are 90% potential, but 10% kinetic. You are doing right now 10% of the work, but you have so much potential. It's unbelievable the potential that you have. And how will my effort empower employees to lead themselves? Now, that's something I also stress on leaders I coach, I work with, that no matter what, you have to part away with some of the power that you have and the authority, because that's the only way people understand what responsibility and accountability is, or one of the important ways. Because when you ask somebody to do something, to become more responsible, to handle bigger responsibilities, um, you bring the best out of them. Okay, now, so this takes us to the next slide. And here we talk about a couple of important things. It's the emotional competence framework, okay? And I think I mentioned it indirectly. And I said, for you to become self-aware, you have to become personally aware and you have to become socially aware. And this awareness, we call it a competence. We call it emotional competence. This means that, are you aware of your competencies regarding yourself, from listening skills, controlling your emotions, and social competence? How do you deal with others? How do you talk to others? How do you build relationships with others? So you see, these are two important things. And as I mentioned before, many people score high on social competence, but they surprise themselves when they realize, wait a second, I didn't know myself that well. And the fact that they discovered themselves and they discovered some of the competencies are not as strong, When they fix these competencies, they become much, much better at social competence. Did you see that? This is very critical, and I like you to remember that. So when we talk about personal competence, we're talking about self-awareness. This means that you are aware of who you are. Self-regulation. Notice this is very important. This means that you control yourself. Self-motivation. You motivate yourself to develop new competencies. You let go of the old ones which are not working for you, and then you direct yourself towards something new. You want to develop new habits and skills. Now, on the social side, you have to be aware of social awareness. You are aware of how people operate, how they talk, but social skills, how you influence and persuade. Did you see that? Social awareness, you're aware of how you talk with, how you deal with people, but social skills is how you deal, persuade, and influence others. So I believe that mindset is a wonderful thing, and I hope you're getting what I'm trying to get across. That the story starts with you. That's why we call it the the internal view, how you look at yourself. Now, before we explore leadership competence, um, let's try to answer some questions. In previous slides and previous webinars, I have talked about competency quite a bit. I'm not going to be spending too much time because I think I like to think about it through these questions. So what is competency, elements of competency, types of competencies, and what are leadership competencies? So let's jump into this one right away. So if we want to define competency, it's a combination of observable measures, knowledge, skills, abilities, and personal attributes. So I like to stop here for a second. So when you say somebody is competent, for example, if I come over and I say to, for example, Muhammad Dawood, Muhammad, are you a competent person? What I'm asking here, does he have the knowledge? Does he have the skills? And does he have the abilities? Or sometimes I call it attitude. You see, this is very important. So if somebody knows what to do, but they don't have the skills, they will not do it very well. They'll make lots of mistakes. If somebody has if somebody has the skills, but they have not, beefed up their knowledge lately, they have not, updated their knowledge, and they don't have the attitude, they will not do a very good job. The quality is going to be very low. If somebody has the attitude and they don't not very strong on knowledge and skills, what they'll do is they will spend time trying to figure out a way to improve their knowledge and the skills. So you probably caught where I'm heading. It starts with your mindset, with your attitude. If you have the foundation of a very good attitude, whatever you learn and whatever you apply becomes very good. So if your abilities, your mindset is geared toward positive quality, I can do it better, I can attitude. Whenever you learn a skill, you do it better. Whenever you increase your knowledge, you understand it better. So that's where it stands. All three are important, but the most important one for me is your attitude. And that is why, this is very critical. So as you can see here, knowledge is cognitive domain, competency is personal characteristics or traits, and skills are the physical domain. Physical means that you're touching things, you're breaking things, you're trying things. Knowledge is you're expanding your brain capabilities, but attitude is you, how you do things. So with that being said, we like to focus more on when we talk about top executives. So if you're heading toward becoming a top executive or you are there already, please be aware that you have some behavioral competencies and functional competencies. Behavioral, we call them soft competencies, and that is listening skills, persuasion, influencing, decision making, all of these things, we call them behavioral. But functional is the technical side. For example, I am good at finance. I'm good at putting computer boards together. I'm very good at, for example, doing statistics. So these are all functional things you can see. So we need both of them. But typically, the journey toward leadership starts with functional competencies. You're very good at technical skills. And as you become more and more, you move into the upward echelons of management, you start letting go more and more of your functional competencies to develop behavioral competency. Why? Because now you are leading others. You are managing others. So this is very important, okay? This is very important. This journey is extremely, extremely important. Now Now, let's talk a little bit about ethical leadership. And I'd like to ask you a question. So are you ready for the question? Here we go. You can be a leader without strong ethical code. True or false? Oh my goodness, this is a tricky question. I'm gonna now show it to you. Let's see how you respond to this question. You can be a leader without a strong ethical code. True or false? Go ahead. You can be a leader without ethical code. We have some strong participation. Excellent. Excellent. I'll give everybody 2 more seconds just to be fair, you know. Oh, that's very good participation. I'm going to end the voting right now. Okay, I'm going to share with you the results. So first of all, end the voting, sharing the results. Now somebody said true. Somebody said true. And that is an interesting, reply. I'm going to elaborate on that one. So just give me a second. Many of you answered false. Okay. So one of the things that you can be a leader without an ethical compass. Yes, you can be a leader. But are you a good leader? That's the question. So many leaders, you know, we have seen it in many situations on TV, on the news, on the internet. Many leaders who act unethically, and the outcome is very clear. Either they break the company goes bankrupt, the way they're making decisions. So yes, you can be a leader without a strong ethical code. But the thing about leadership is if you have a strong leadership, but you also have strong ethical code, you are not just a leader, you are an outstanding leader because you have a moral compass that guides you through certain things. So I'm going to caution you about something here. You as a leader or an aspiring leader, you will meet those who don't have strong ethical code. And in many cases, you will confront them. You will stand in the way and says, you cannot do this. So that is why the world is a balance between those who are not so good and those who are really good. I have no doubt that people attending this webinar are the ambassadors for the future who will be standing in the way of those who try to break the ethical standards of our society and say, no, you cannot do this. But with one caution. What we are seeing more and more is that ethical codes are evolving. So you also have to understand that people, taste, ethical code, values are also changing, and you have to be aware of that. So I would like you to be an adaptive leader, but doesn't mean that you let go of the core values. There are certain core values that we don't like to compromise on because we know the results already. When you break these rules, these values, immediately the result is shown. But some values or some credo or some rules, they are kind of in the gray area. So this is very good. Very good. I like that. Thank you for voting. This is very, very good. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to close this one and go back to my slide. So this is very good. I like that a lot. Now, ethical leadership, my dear friends, is very important. And there are different types of situations where ethics is exercised. We call it situation leadership. Situation leadership that on the spot you have to apply some leadership, some ethical code. For example, somebody says something bad to somebody else or uses a certain word, on the spot you have to say this is wrong or this is bad. A situation that you're facing. Cultural ethics or cultural relativism. And I want to congratulate my colleagues in Saudi Arabia, especially the leadership in Saudi Arabia, because they have changed lots of the cultures and the views about women in the workplace. But at some stage, worldwide, if we go back to 80 years back, women were not allowed to work in the workplace. And that was a cultural, ethical issue. As a culture, we had to deal with it. And with time, we managed to overcome these values and issues. And then you have professional ethics. Oh my goodness. Professional is what you have to do with your work. Submitting a report with quality or not, making mistakes in your report, would you fix it or not? Trying to hide things, trying to hide numbers, working with numbers and trying to cheat the company, or insisting that things are done properly. You see, professional ethics. And then value-based ethics. I come to you and I lie, you'd say, don't lie, please, don't lie, you see? And then you have rule-based ethics. Rule-based means that we put the rules and you have to stick with them. Now the problem happens, they say, I did not vote for this, so I'm not going to stick with it. You have probably seen many of it lately. People wearing masks versus people not wearing masks during the COVID-19. And that is why some companies said you have to we put a rule that you wear a mask. Some diner or some cafe or some shop said you have to wear a mask when you come into our premises. Yes. And then, of course, ethics based on fairness. For example, Ilyas comes over and says, you know, Jamal, it's not fair, you know, that my parking spot is 100 meters away from the office and Muhammad's parking spot is only 10 meters. For him, it's a fairness thing. So as you can see, as a leader, you have to understand that leadership deals with these ethical questions all the time. And how you respond to these things shows the mindset that you have and your level of maturity. This is why it is very important that you always ask yourself certain questions. Patricia Pinnell and Shirley Egan, they mentioned something very interesting. They said, you know what? There are 4 questions to check your ethics behind every decision or action you take. Would your kid say, Dad, why are you doing that? Would your kid say, Mom, why are you doing this? You see, kids are very good with ethical, moral values. They're very, very good. Or if you're doing something, would it end up on the front page or CNN News or the internet? And people say, look at that guy, what he did or what she did. The golden rule questions. Golden rules are, you know, very famous golden rules. Don't lie, don't cheat, don't do that. So golden rules. And rules of universality. It means that if everybody is doing it and it is wrong, would you still do it? Or would you try to fix it? Or would you try to be like everybody else? Sometimes some rules are universal. They become kind of mode, okay? And everybody follows it. So, but you can have a framework around leadership, okay? There are 2 elements that you have to focus on. One is acting and making decisions ethically, and then leading ethically. So that is why ethical leadership, you as a leader, as an ethical leader, you know, what's your mindset toward ethics makes a difference. I'm not asking you to, you know, be black and white kind of leader. Leadership is not black and white. You and we, if you don't agree with me, you're my enemy, or if you agree with me, you are on my campus. It doesn't work that way. And we have seen it over and over again. But it's very important that ethical leadership understand it from how you act and make decisions ethically. And sometimes there's a big gray area that you have to work in. And then leading ethically. Stick to your words. If you say something or you come up with a rule, it's very important that you stick with it. We call it walking the talk. So here's the reason we practice ethical leadership is because it models your behavior. It builds trust. Yes, come to think of it, you only trust a person who says the truth, who doesn't lie to you, who delivers on commitment. That's how trust builds. Who brings credibility and respect. Lead with collaboration. Of course, the collaboration is very important, especially today. I'm working on a project, and this company, they sent me a quotation, and you can tell the number of hours they have to put behind this project. And this project cannot be done by one person. It has to be done by maybe 15 people working together to get it done. It creates a good climate for the organization. Imagine ethical leadership. It creates a nice climate. It allows to occupy the moral high ground. Yes. And of course, afford self-respect. The fact that you lead in such a style, you force respect on others, or you demand respect because you know what, I believe in these values. So some important components of ethical leadership: your ability to set aside your ego and personal interest, your willingness to encourage and take seriously feedback, the encouragement of others to lead, make discussions of ethical part of your culture. And doesn't have to be about religious things or anything like that. If something happens in a company, somebody stole something, somebody said something, you can make, you know, a nice conversation around it so that people can learn. That's what we call them, the stories in the company and the culture of the company. And the rest, the other ones that I mentioned here and I list for you, are very important components. I highly recommend that you read it, especially if you got a copy of this presentation. Go ahead and Read it over the weekend. It's very, very nice. So we finish with the inward perspective in many ways, but I'd like to take you to the outward perspective. And this takes us to the following questions, my dear friends. Uncertainty, innovation, global competition, and unfair practices, clarity about where to most fruitfully invest, or market volatility, are things that leaders worry about today. True or false? Are you ready? Let me do the survey. And this is, I believe, question number 3. And here we go. Let's see how you'll answer this one. Go ahead. Very good. Excellent. Excellent. We have some new faces on our webinar, so I welcome you all. And this is great to have you with us, guys. This is fantastic. Thank you for taking the time to be with us this afternoon. All right. So we have some answers coming in already. I'll give everybody, a few more seconds just to make sure that we give you a chance to answer. All right. 2 more seconds. I'm going to end the voting. All right. Let me share with you the results. And I do apologize if I ended the voting. My apologies. I don't know if you were able to slip through another one. I'm going to share with you the results. So here we go. So many of you said true, and one person said false. Well, in many ways, this answer is based on a survey that was done or given to leaders. And leaders said, in many ways, global competition is keeping us, we worry about it. Because remember, this is the outward perspective. We finished with the inward perspective. Now you're looking out. When you look out, you look at competition, the market, your company, your employees. You no longer reflect upon yourself. You do that, of course, you keep doing that, but now you're looking outward. So these are the things that sometimes are keeping leaders awake at night. So I'm going to now stop sharing the results. I'm going to close it, and I'm going to go into my slide. So here we go. So well done to all of you who answered. So this survey was conducted by the Wall Street Journal in 2014, and the things that I mentioned in the question did not change much, funny enough, even though in 2020 we have the COVID-19 and all of these things. And by the way, I'm updating this slide to see how have leaders changed their opinion or their attitude toward things. What's important for them? But funny enough, these things are still very important, and the most important one is volatility and lack of certainty. So here we go. Tim Polenti from Financial Services Roundtable, he says that what keeps me at night and what I worry about is disruptions caused by innovation. Imagine technology. He also worries about government compliance. Government, sometimes they put lots of regulations. Work-life balance, making sure that he stays healthy, spend time with their family. Here's another lady. This is a wonderful lady. Her name is Dr. Rosabeth Moscanter. She is a professor at Harvard Business School. I think she retired now, but some of the things she mentioned, that leaders worry about uncertainty. In the 30 years back, we could predict quite a bit with lots of certainty what's going to happen the following year, but now we can hardly ascertain how the future would be. And a case in point is the COVID-19. I mean, look at what happened to us and the hassle we have been going through and the difficulties we have been going through. Many companies did not see it. Innovation, of course, global competition, clarity about where to most fruitfully invest. Where do you want to invest your money? And market volatility. The market is changing quite a bit. And the last one I'd like to share with you is from Jay Hooley, who is the Chief Executive of State Street Corporation. What's interesting is the number one. I don't know if you can see what I'm seeing. Finding and retaining the best talent. This is one of the biggest challenges of companies today, is how do I keep my talent? Because companies are changing so much and people are developing their talent so fast that those companies, in order to keep up, they steal talent from each other. And then, of course, he has to how to position yourself in the global market, how to develop the right corporate culture. So this is only a sample. These 3 people are only a sample, and it tells you that leaders, when they think outward, these are the things that keep them up at night. So engaging the organization, you as a leader, you have to engage, and this is very, very critical. You have to engage the organization. And every organization should operate with a defined organizational structure. So one of the key things, you as a leader, how do you engage? How you build that culture? And one of the key things is that a culture start developing once you put some strategies, some vision, some mission. So it's very important that business strategies should be defined well with a proper structure and clear reporting relationships in order to improve the communication channels, because true leaders and capable leaders, they communicate very, very well. So now, that being said, this is very important. There are 5 popular business organizational structures. So usually I talk in more details, but you might be working for one of these structures: a matrix, functional, product-based, customer-based, geographic structure. Some of you are working in a geographic structure. What does it mean? The company is based in Saudi, but you are based in UAE, for example. Customer organization, you focus on the customer. You don't focus on the product, especially hospitals. Product based, for example, Nestle or KPMG, PNG, and these companies, they have product divisions. Functional means finance, sales, marketing, functional companies. And matrix, where things just like a mesh with each other, and you may have more than one boss. I recommend that you read more about it. I don't want to take away from your time, but these are things important, and each organizational structure has its pluses and negatives. But you as a leader, you have to decide what's important for you. So beyond the organizational structure, engaging the employee who's working within that structure is very important. You have to know how to engage employees. So you as a leader, when you're thinking outward, you have to know how to engage employees. And this means that you have to inform them, you have to consult them, you have to involve them, you have to collaborate, and you have to empower. And I don't know if you noticed how we are moving from the low level of maturity with the inform to the very high level of maturity to empower. So you go with your employees, and you're probably one of them. You are probably at one of these stages. If you are very mature or you're highly skilled, you are probably empowered in your organization. But if you are still not a head of a division or something, you might be working in a team on a big project, so you're collaborating. Involving means that I ask for your opinion and I involve you with some decisions. Consulting, I ask you, what do you think? But I don't leave the decision with you, by the way. Informing, I just tell you that that's what we're doing, because probably you are at the level where you don't understand everything yet. So as you can see, when I take you from inform to the empower, that depends on you. It doesn't depend a lot on the employee as much as it depends on you, because I always think of the employee as he is or she is a product of the leadership and management they belong to. How you develop your people makes a whole difference. So if you want to keep them in their form, yes, you can, but they might leave you after a while. If you want to empower them, you can. And yes, they will leave you after a while, because as they grow and they mature, they will find more opportunities. So you as a leader and a manager, you have to work during that scope of things. And you always have to hire, and sometimes you have to let go. But the main thing is that employees, you have to engage them differently, and you have to understand where they are in this spectrum. So one of the key things to engage employees better, you have to build trust, you have to mentor them, you have to include them, and you have to align them through their jobs and their goals so that they are aligned with the companies. And you have to let them understand that team development is very, very important. This takes us to the fact that how do you interact with the market? So we talked about you thinking outward, you interact with the employees, you engage them. But now here comes the market. You have to engage with the market today, and the market is quite demanding. So you have to be aware of the fact that you have to have different skills. Notice this particular slide. Notice that one of the key things is that today you have to understand the customer journey. This is a new concept. It came up in the past 5 years, 6 years. It became very prevalent. You have to understand how customers buy from you. You have to understand that people need to talk to customers better. This is a new skill, a new competency. So you see, when you interact with the market, if you don't have these 2 skills, you don't understand the market. You have to understand that technology is very important for your team. How they use technology, mobility. Real-time channel orchestration, this means that working with your channel where you push your products through. Social intervention and social interaction. And then how you drive your emails and communication. Now, did you notice that I did not mention many of the skills, the traditional skills? We are asking people to pay attention to these skills now. It doesn't mean that you stop being an ethical leader, not at all. But these skills are very important. So now for you to deal with the market better, you have to develop these skills. This means that you have to listen to your customers. You have to analyze their feedback. For example, if I come to Mahmoud and to Muhammad and say, Muhammad, I think your product has some issues. The one area of the product is weak and it breaks up when I put it in the shipping. If Muhammad doesn't listen to me, then he will lose business because I'm not the only one who's going to stop buying from him. Many people will stop buying from him. So as you can see, listening to feedback from employees and customers is very important. Plan your engagement, how to engage employees and customers. Look, the customer is still very important, and it's even more important today. And one of the key things about COVID-19 is that it has put a big gap between us and the customers. I cannot go and visit the customers as I did before. So now you have to change your mode of engagement. And then you have to speak and reach out, of course. You have to become, speak more, go on social media, write articles, give opinion. Remember at the beginning, I told you you have to be an opinion maker. You have to make your opinion. So as you can see, 4 simple, powerful steps are important to interact with the market. Listen to your customer, analyze their feedback, plan your engagement with them, and speak and reach out. Doesn't mean that if you don't see them, you cannot talk to them. Send them a WhatsApp, send them a letter, send them something. Let them know that you are thinking about them. So partnership is very important. So today you have to build partnership, and we have seen partnership in such a big way today, especially between shipping companies and delivery companies and restaurants. Imagine restaurants that didn't have ability to deliver. They said, I have to strike a partnership with a delivery company, like Deliveroo or whatever you have in your place, in order for them to succeed. So as you can see, partners and alliances is very important, and this is an outward thinking. So you have to change your mindset. You have to stop saying my company alone. Today you have to change. Same thing with competition. You have to keep an eye on competition because competition is moving so fast and evolving so fast. So as you can see, the inward perspective is one thing. The outward perspective is very important. You have to focus on your employees. You have to focus on your customers. You have to focus on your competition. This means that you have to identify your competition, analyze them, know your clients. Ask your clients about your competition. You have to put strategies against your competition so that you can stop them from expanding. And of course, you have to adjust your business. You see the last one? This is very critical. You have to keep your business changing and evolving. Otherwise, you're going to die. This takes us, my dear friends, to how you as a leader apply the inward abilities and the outward abilities to developing strategies and values and value creation. Not value, I'm talking about moral. Value means growth, more money, more success. So are you ready for the question? Here we go. My next question is, companies need to stay nimble if they want to succeed in business today. True or false? So here comes number 4. And go ahead. Companies need to stay nimble if they want to succeed in business today. Let's see. Already the replies are trickling in. That's fantastic. That's great. Thank you. Domenico, thank you for your participation. Luai, Rami, Taisir as always. Wala, mashallah. Thank you guys for coming into this webinar today. All of you, we appreciate it. Yes. So now we have some answers coming in. I'll give you 3 or 4 seconds more to make sure that we give everybody a chance. Okay. All right. Very good. 2 more seconds. I'm going to end the voting in 1, 2. I'm going to end the voting now. All right. So I'm going to share the results. So many of you said, yes, you have to be nimble to succeed in business today. Some of you said, no, it's not true. Well, It might be true in your business, maybe the business model that you have, you are immune to change. But these businesses are very, very, very few. 99% of the business today has to be nimble, and you have to change. Nimble means that you are light, you can change and move fast and adapt to change, adapt to what's happening in the market. That's what nimble is. Maybe you didn't know what nimble is, and I'm very sorry if I did not explain it. But nimble means that you are agile, light, you can change very fast. And as you can see from COVID-19 and what happened in the past 4 months, many companies just closed because they didn't change, they couldn't change. But many companies kept on going because they managed to change their model. And you might be working for one of these companies. So good for you. So here we go. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to close now. I'm going to go back to the slides. All right. So we stopped here. Let's move on. My dear friends, one of the key things is that you have to stay strategically nimble. This means that your strategy has to be light, agile. How can that be? Well, it can be, because things are changing so fast, so your strategy also has to be agile strategy. It doesn't mean that you have to change every day, but you have to make sure that you adapt to the things that are happening out there. So as the future becomes less predictable, some believe that we have come to the end of strategy, which is not true. But you have to develop and think about strategy differently. This means that nimble companies are changing their strategy development process. Did you see that? They still believe in strategy, but they are changing how they approach strategy. They're developing great strategists, okay? They are also developing great strategists, individuals who are prepared enough to spot shifts early. Did you see that one? Did you see this particular word here? So one of the key things about your strategy is that you have to have your radars ready. You have to update your radars so that you can see things happening before they hit you. And if you keep changing before things come your way, you are very successful, because this means that you're able to adapt. So one of the key things is being agile, update things, improve your radars, how you scan the market, how you read things. This means that you have to look at 3 key dimensions. One is time horizons, and the way we think and the way we engage. The time horizons, this means that you have to look at, you keep an eye on the future. You cannot only focus on today. So you have to keep an eye on the future. Thinking, you have to change the way you think. You have to change the way you approach things. You have to say, you know what, maybe you have to be more innovative. You see? Engage. You cannot do it on your own. You have to engage your organization better. You have to empower your employees differently. You have to work with your employees differently. Because some of the best ideas, they come from the front line. So these 3 pillars are important today if you like to stretch things in the right direction. Otherwise, you're going to stay in your place. So this is why it's very important that when you are, putting a strategy process in place, you have to assess the situation. You have to assess what's going on. Sometimes people use SWOT analysis. Sometimes you have used different kind of analysis. You have to design based on your assessment. You have to build your strategy, and you have to manage it. And accordingly, in each one of them, you have to put the KPIs and change things accordingly. So as you can see, it's not that difficult. At the end of the day, this process should help you come up with this value chain. And in previous webinars, I have shared with you this value chain, because I love this value chain, because it tells you what is the primary functions of your company. All of you work for in one of these squares, in one of these horizontals. Some of you work in the inbound logistics, sometimes in operations, sometimes in outbound. Some of you work in the legal department, some of you work in the IT, some of you work in the procurement. You work somewhere. And every aspect of this value chain is delivering profit. But we divide them based on primary functions. This means the essential functions that you cannot let go, and support functions that they have to support the front line. So when you put a strategy, you have to also assess the situation in each one of these segments that I showed you, design it differently, build it, and manage it, so that this model and the value chain is always changing. And this value chains come from Michael Porter, another influential person in the field of management. So whatever you do, you have to understand your numbers. And I'm not going to go into numbers, income statement and balance sheet here, because we don't have time, but I want to caution you about something. You as a leader, you have to speak numbers and always understand, how does the company develop? their numbers, expenses, growth, revenue, contribution margin. All of these things are important aspects. Cash flow, all of these things are critical for you. And because numbers speak a lot and it gives you lots of credibility. And another thing, you have to know your measures, because these are the measures that tell you what to do with your business. So they have to be quantifiable. You have to understand how to design them. You have to make sure that people know how to to manage them and take care of them. And then, of course, every key, performance indicator, they come in different shapes and forms. I will leave this for you to read because I don't want to bore you with the details, but you got the point, is that you as a leader who's putting strategies, you have to understand the process, you have to understand the value chain, you have to understand the KPIs. At the end of the day, these KPIs, these are some characteristics of the KPIs that you have to keep in mind, because every KPI you put in your company takes lots of effort to bring the data around it. At the end of the day, it's very important that you see this view. You have what we call a balanced scorecard. So as a leader, you have to have a balanced approach to things. You have to understand what's happening with the organization capacity. That's you. Your employees, are they learning? And then the process, are they applying things correctly in the process? This means that are they running operations okay? And then the third one, are customers happy with our processes? Notice, customer, are they happy with our operations, the process? And then if the customer is happy, are we bringing more business? So that is why this is very important as well. So this view of the balanced scorecard, or what we call the strategy mapping, is critical for you. So this is why there are 10 essential business tools for every top executive that they need today. Some of them has to do with CRM, as you can see, benchmarking, balanced scorecard, supply chain, all of these things. And I like to add social media as well, because social media is very, very critical. So it's no longer 10, it's, as a matter of fact, 11, because social media is the hidden gem that tells you how customers think of you. So it's very important that you interact with your customers on social media. One company that comes to mind always when it comes to social media is L'Oreal. L'Oreal is a cosmetic company, and I tell you, they deal with their customers on social media so closely that many ideas come from customers much more than they come from their research labs. So here we come. We're coming toward the end of our slides, but I'd like to ask you a couple more questions dealing with market dynamics. Okay, so are you ready? Here we go. Here comes the question. Leadership is about dealing with change. True or false? Oh my goodness. I hope I'm not making it difficult for you guys. Let's see, you're voting. Leadership is about dealing with change. True or false? All right, man. This is very, oh, wow. Very strong answers. That's fantastic. So allow me to end the voting because, mashallah, I think we captured the big chunk of it. I'm going to share the results with you. Okay. We have one false. I'll buy that one. Okay. I'm going to say one thing here. Today, leadership is about working and dealing with change. Whether you like it or not, or you're not comfortable with change, one key thing about leadership, you have to develop the leadership skills to deal with change. Period. Because if you are not willing to deal with change, you will be outdated very, very, very fast. So that's one skill I ask you to develop it and work on it. So well done to all of you. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to close. I'm going to go back to my slides. One key thing about leaders is they have to deal with change, my dear friends. Because change is something that presses us from our comfort zone. And goodness, are we out of our comfort zone these days? Especially in the past 4 months, we have been out of our comfort zone. Modern history have never seen something like this. And I'm talking modern history after World War II, that none of us went through it. But because change, in many ways, is inequitable. How you deal with change is different from how others deal with change. I might deal with change differently than I would deal with change. Everybody has a different view of change. Some people love it, some people hate it. Change is for better or for worse as well. And with COVID-19, we saw how some companies succeeded very well, some companies did not. And you need a certain adjustment period of time. You need a period of time to adjust. Don't forget that, please. And it can have a very strong effect on people. So it's very important that we work with change and try to adapt to it. So with that being said, We have something called organizational change. This is one of the key topics for managers today and leaders. When you are dealing with change, you're dealing from an organizational perspective, and you have to change lots of things from technologies, processes, structures, strategies. But the biggest thing, my dear friends, is you have to communicate. You have to communicate the importance of why we are changing and the value behind it, because leaders can convince people and convert and persuade them that the reason we're changing is because it's important for us to do it. We grow, we do this, we do that. Show the value. Show the value of the change. And some of you have been listening to your leaders and they're saying we need to change, we need to adapt. So that's part of the communication. And I tell you, you have to communicate, because executive decisions are what top executives should feel comfortable with, passing on decisions about strategy, resourcing, and dates. That's what they communicate about. Listen, we need to do this, we need to do that. And they have to make sure that they follow these decisions with actions, and they have to be visible. People have to see them participating with these decisions. It's not enough to take a decision and step back. Take a decision and be actively participating. How many times have we seen, for example, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed wearing the mask in public, telling people, I did not take the decision just to, in Abu Dhabi, to to ask people to put the mask. I put it myself. The same thing with Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, the same thing in Saudi Arabia. Everybody. In Egypt, the same thing. So you also have to have direct communication. Don't communicate via email only. Be there in front of people. And then, of course, coalition building. You have to build coalitions because you cannot change by yourself. So this takes us to the following, where one of the main reasons organizations fail, okay, because they forget that the urgency to change. And many companies, they didn't see the urgency of COVID-19, and unfortunately, they did not survive. We can count many of them who did not fail. And it took them only 3 months to fail because they just, didn't have the urgency to change. So one of the key things about leaders today when they are dealing with change is they have to create the urgency. Now, this takes us to John Carter, our friend, who always says that for you to create the urgency, you have to listen to your customers, use the power of videos, interact with people, and don't protect them from bad news. Leadership is about good news and bad news as well. And send people out. Look how powerful this is. Send people out doesn't mean firing them. Send people out means let them go and meet with customers so that they understand what's going on in the market. Now, this is the last segment, my dear friends. I'm just going to talk about the agenda a little bit, and then I'm going to wrap up and let you go. So I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us. And here comes the last question. A top executive leader does not need an agenda. True or false? My last question for you. Here we go. Start your voting. A top executive leader does not need an agenda. Very good. Very good. Very strong answers. I'm glad. So now I'm going to just, oh, that's great. I'm going to end the voting in a minute. All right. That's very good. I'm going to share the results. So here we go. We have one true and we have many false. And the question is, as a leader, you need an agenda. The answer, you need an agenda. Never work without an agenda. You have to have an agenda. But let me share with you some lessons from a very famous author on leadership and teamwork. Here we go. So first of all, let me stop sharing. I'm going to close this one. I'm going to go to the last set of slides. Now, my dear friends, great leaders inspire others. They have certain traits. Those who inspire, they have certain traits. And here are 5 things you must do to become even more effective as a top executive leader. And I hope that those who are listening, you map your way to become a top leader. Top executive leaders should be concerned with the health of the organization, how healthy organization is. And Patrick Lencioni, the one I referred to just a few seconds back, he's a very wonderful writer, and he writes about leadership and teamwork. And he stresses on 4 key elements in the leadership agenda. He says every leader should have these things. So you as a leader should worry about the health of the organization. But how do you go about it? You go about it by focusing on the following 4 things. First of all, you have to build a cohesive leadership team. You have to have a very strong team in place. Second, creating clarity. People have to understand why they are working for your company. The objectives have to be very clear. The roles have to be very clear. Then you have to over communicate clarity. People forget how important clarity is. You have to communicate, communicate, and communicate. And did you see the last one? Reinforce that clarity. So notice that how important it is for people to understand what you are doing. In many cases, you assume things, but these four building blocks of your agenda is you have to build the team in place. You have to teach them how to communicate clarity. You have to tell them how to over communicate clarity and how to reinforce it. This means that they go out and they sit down with people and tell them, do you understand it? What are the mistakes that we're doing? Where did we go wrong? And then fix it and let them know that we are here to make things better. 4 items on the agenda. So this is why you have to balance stability with flexibility. So we're coming toward the end, and that's why I insist that never forget the importance of staying flexible and flexible today. But doesn't mean that you forget stability, because stability gives you the chance to achieve results, but flexibility gives you a chance to deal with the changes in the market. So these are 2 important things. Steps in decision-making process: always identify the purpose of your decision. Always gather your information. Always make sure that you judge alternatives properly. Always brainstorm your choices. Evaluate your alternatives. Select the best alternatives. Execute your decisions and evaluate your results. Decision making, my dear friends, is an important part of your future or current situation. You have to make decisions, and how you do them, these are wonderful steps. These 8 steps can help you make decisions much, much better. And don't forget the value of coaching. We talked about coaching at the beginning, and within employees, it's very important that you push coaching and mentoring as part of your culture, because you as a leader, you're developing a company that can survive the different hits that we're seeing today. And of course, mentoring is very important. I want to see more mentoring in companies, and I hope that more companies adopt this. I think that this is it. These are some references for you, my dear friends. The following books: The Leadership Challenge by Barry Posner and James Kouzes. It's a bit old, I have to admit, but it's a very good book. It's a book that has managed to survive many decades. The 3 Levels of Leadership Model by James Schooler. Very nice book. Straightforward to read. Followership by Barbara Kellerman. She talks about the follower leadership. This means that how do you make sure that people follow you with full intent and not because you are the boss. The Modern Firm by John Roberts, the shape of the firm today. The Culture Engine by Chris Edmonds, also the importance of culture in transforming your workplace. And The Best Place to Work by Ron Friedman. He's a very, very famous writer, The Art of Science and Creating an Extraordinary Workplace. And with this, I'd like to thank you. This is the last slide. I hope that you enjoyed the webinar. Here are some dates for upcoming courses. I hope to see you there. Okay, as you can see, we're hopeful. And here's my email again, my LinkedIn. If you'd like to be part of my network, please do so. And this is it. I want you to have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe, healthy, and take care of yourself. And thank you for being with us today and listening. And I do apologize for taking 13 minutes more from the hour. But thank you so much, and have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. If you like a copy of the webinar, do send me an email and I'll send it across. God bless and take care. Bye-bye.
Meirc.com